Give yourself the freedom to be undisciplined, to allow the flow to just happen unencumbered, unprocessed, unrefined. Hey, Leonard Geddes here, founder of the LearnWell projects. It's been a while since I posted. It's been a lot going on, so I haven't had the time to, but I wanted to get back at you, and hopefully I'll get a regular routine of posting. So in this segment, I want to talk about something that's seems quite contradictory: being disciplined to be undisciplined. And so this is particularly pertains to my writing, but it may pertain to you if you're an artist, if you're a student, if you're a professional, parent, whatever role you might play. But sometimes we have to be disciplined to allow ourselves to be undisciplined. Let me explain that. So in my writing, I sometimes get stuck. I'm a new writer. I have this publishing deal and I'm excited about this product. I know it's going to really transform higher education in some meaningful ways. But in writing this is a big undertaking. And while I've enjoyed the process, I've learned a lot about myself. One thing in particular is that when I started writing in the beginning, I would sit and stew for, sometimes I'm embarrassed to say, hours in writing one paragraph. So think about it. You have this book that's going to be 90,000 words or so, and I'm stewing over one paragraph. And that's just not a recipe for success. In fact, it's definitely a recipe for failure and frustration. And so I just kept internally examining what's going on with me. Why am I taking so long to make progress in this book? And I also came across some other advice from other writers. And then I started synthesizing that with my own experience, and I came to some conclusions that over the last few months have really helped me make headway in my book, and I'd like to share those. So again, I had to learn to develop the discipline to be undisciplined, because, and seems contradictory, because when we think of discipline, we think of this sort of planned out, step-by-step, focused, unwavering approach to something. And I had to sort of flip that on its head and apply that unwavering approach to being undisciplined. And here's what that looks like. So first, I had to realize that I had to allow myself, or give myself, the freedom to just get my thoughts out. Initially, I would try to get to the finished sentence, the finished paragraph, the finished chapter immediately. I had this conceptual vision of where I wanted to go. However, when I would get in the midst of writing it, things would get jumbled up in my mind, and I would say, oh man, I don't like the way this sounds. I want to read this over. And that's what led me to spend this exorbitant amount of time on paragraphs. And so the first lesson that I learned is I had to give myself the freedom to be undisciplined, get my thoughts out. Out things that I would never let someone else read, because they had slang in them. They were unfinished sentences. They were sort of paragraphs that started and then had, the three dots that then led to other paragraphs that didn't necessarily connect. But it allowed me the freedom to just get it all out. So that's number one. Give yourself the freedom to just say what you have to say. Another tool that helped me in this is dictation. So before, I would try to type all this out, and that would just sometimes get jumbled. But when I would dictate, like I'm doing now, into the microphone, I would just talk in the way I would normally talk, and just to get it out. So again, the first step, give yourself the freedom to be undisciplined, to allow the flow to just happen unencumbered, unprocessed, unrefined. Which leads to number two, which is I had to realize that sentences, paragraphs, chapters in the book doesn't come out in finished products. They start as figments, just these fleeting thoughts in the mind that may be useful in the end, may not be. But how do you know? Well, what I had to do is I had to write those figments down. I had to just allow those figments to come out and put them in. And that realization really helped me move forward. So number two is just keep this abiding awareness in your mind that figments are good. Figments are like seeds that are going to come up and eventually develop into finished products later on, not in the beginning. So value those figments, plant those seeds, allow them to germinate, and they'll become finished products later. And number 3 is trust. This was sort of revealing for me because I never realized how much of a role trust played in being undisciplined. Because the reason that I was trying to get these finished products, these finished sentences out immediately was because I had no trust that later on I would be able to refine them. I thought that I would get this partial sentence out, this vague thought, this figment on paper, and then later on I would revisit it and I would say, what was I thinking then? Gosh, I really don't know why I wrote that. And I realized that, no, that's a sign of a lack of trust in this process that I have. And so when I started to just put them out there, a day later, when I would review my work, I would have greater clarity because my mind was free from fixating on that particular chapter, that particular component of the book. And then I was able to go back and say, oh, okay, this is how I want to say this better. Oh, let me reorganize this sequence of paragraphs better so that it can flow more seamlessly and more interestingly for the reader. And so that trust, the ability to trust that later on I would be able to refine that, was a huge boost to me that helped me be able to be disciplined in order to stay undisciplined. So I hope this gives you a level of freedom that you didn't have before in your work, whatever that work may be. So let me emphasize those 3 points again. Number 1, give yourself freedom to just get your thoughts out. Number 2, remember, keep this abiding knowledge that figments are good. Figments will eventually develop into fully developed thoughts, fully developed sentences, paragraphs, and so forth. And then number 3, trust. Trust that once you get this information out of your head, then later on, an hour later, a day later, maybe a week later, you'll be able to revisit that information and it will become clearer to you and you'll be able to hone it into that finished product that you're seeking. So I hope this helped you out. It surely has helped me. I've exponentially increased the flow of my writing. I think my writing is better because I'm out of my head and I'm able to just express myself much more freely, and I've been much more productive. So again, I hope this is useful to you. If you like this, please like it. Give me your comments on what's helped you. What about these 3 steps or my story helps you, resonates with you? And then please click that notification and subscribe because I'm going to have more good things coming out to you. So thanks.